What's up, guys? Brett Okamoto from ESPN doing my first live interview of 2021, and of course there's no other man to do it with than the president of the UFC, Dana White. Dana, how are you doing? Happy 2021.
Happy 21.
I feel like for about 4 months you were saying, let's just get through 2020, let's just get through 2020. We are officially through 2020. How does it feel to be past that year?
Listen, it's the same. I was saying toward the end, I don't know what I expect in 21, but hopefully it's better than 20. We had a good year, and I'm just focused on what I and we have to do here at the UFC.
And you say you don't know what to expect out of 2021, which is fair. I don't think anyone knows what to expect, but give me your best guess. I mean, in terms of what could be different, what you learned, and then what you're foreseeing in 2021. How will the business be different than it was in 2020?
Well, the big difference is, the fear that everybody had in 20. We fought through that and put all that behind us. We're dialed in here. We're in a good place. We know how to run events with all the stuff that's going on. We ran events without crowds. We did it successfully, and I know I can do it again in 21.
What did 2020 take out of you? I mean, when you look back on that year, I mean, it's how are you different as a human being than you were starting the year?
Well, I think it's done wonders for my business and with my team. I think the UFC team has never been stronger than it is right now. We proved a lot of things to each other in 20, and we're going into 21 stronger than we've ever been. As a company, as a sport, as a brand, and as a team.
Was there ever any moments over the course of last year where, you've talked about this before, that you could retire if you wanted to. You could have retired when the Fertittas sold the business. Was there ever a moment where you're like, I don't need this stuff, man. I'd be sitting on a yacht somewhere. Was there ever a time where the problems were just mounting up and you said, do I want to keep doing this?
No, that didn't happen. But I love solving problems. It's like my favorite thing to do. So I was built for this. I was built for 2020. Okay. It was right up my alley.
Yeah. What about your career moving forward? I mean, we're always talking to these fighters about hey, what do you want to do with this chapter of your career, or what do you still have left to accomplish? Let's check in with you on where you're at professionally. What are you looking at over the next few years?
You know what's funny? I say this to you guys every year as we go into a new year. And I'm going to say it again. Wait till you see what we do in the next 2 years.
You do say that every
year. I know. We're working on really good stuff right now. It's the craziest thing ever, because coming out of 2020, like I told you, we've never been stronger than we are right now, and we're working on big moves. I mean, we're coming right out of 2020 and going into Fight Island with great fights. A great half a year laid out already.
When you talk about wait till you see what I have planned in 2021, I mean, if you want to share all that, please. I don't anticipate you would, but in kind of what terms? I mean, I know global expansion is a big deal for you guys. Yeah. Is that still possible with everything going on in the world? Technology and all the promo stuff. I mean, you guys get better at that every year. But can you give us just a little bit of sort of the categories that we might see these big things?
Yeah, well, I think you nailed it. I think that it's always about taking the business and the sport to the next level. And this year, we're going to do that again. And yes, global. And yes, it's about technology. And it's about, I've been saying for 20 years. Yesterday was my 20th year with the UFC.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And, I always said we're going to be the biggest sport in the world. We're going to be, the most valuable sports franchise on the planet. And all of that stuff is going to a completely different level this year.
And Fight Island has obviously been a big success in terms of, just the excitement level about it. The excitement level about it. I mean, I remember when you broke it to me standing right over there, and you told me, I've got an island. And then my eyes were like, what the hell are you talking about? You have an island. And so that sort of take on its own sort of aura. And then it was executed very well. And then obviously Las Vegas, you guys were able to hold a lot of cards here. Is that still the plan going into 2021, or are we going to see a little bit branching out of potentially some different markets that you will have live events in?
Yeah. I'm focused on nothing right now, but Abu Dhabi and Las Vegas. But as places that, we are kicking the tires again in Florida, because Florida's talking about opening up, and Florida's been so good to us. Texas is doing some things. I'm not going to go into one of these arenas other than Vegas or Abu Dhabi unless I can sell the place out.
I don't think it could be more perfect the way you're starting off the year too. I mean, you got 3 events in a matter of a week. You start on ABC, you got the Wednesday event, and then of course Conor McGregor coming back. And I was rewatching some of the old embeddeds of the first time that Conor fought Dustin Poirier was 6 years ago. And you were up in his suite at Red Rock, and you guys were watching fights together, and and this is a natural thing, right? I mean, the course of his career, the feelings change, and the sort of what's at stake for Conor when he fights changes, and the energy level. I mean, it's not a level thing. It comes in waves. When Conor McGregor fights now, like, what would you say is the biggest difference than when he was fighting, 2014, 15, when he was making his way up and about to hit Jose
That's
Aldo?
The difference. The difference is, again, he had a lot of detractors, a lot of people who thought he wasn't this, that, he wasn't real, he can't wrestle, he can't do this, he can't do that. He's proved everybody wrong. Mm-hmm. Now when he comes back, the questions are, the guy's so rich, and how hungry is he, and let me tell you what, Dustin Poirier is not the same guy that fought him 6 years ago, and Conor isn't the same guy that fought 6 years ago. This is a completely different fight with the same people, but not the same mentalities, not the same attributes. It makes this a completely different fight, and it's a fun one.
For sure. And as a promoter, how do you look at Conor now? Do you look at Conor as a guy like, he could be the best 155-pound fighter in the world, and I want to see that. I want to see him get the belt, and I want to see him defend it multiple times. Or do you think that because of everything that you just said, he's a rich guy, he doesn't fight very frequently anymore. As a promoter, do you have to kind of change the way you look at him and how you try to promote fights with him?
I'm always about the best fighting the absolute best. And anybody who thinks that Conor McGregor isn't still one of the best fighters in the world, go back and look at what he did to Cowboy Cerrone last year. He is one of the best, and this is a real fight, and he took this fight serious. There's nothing more exciting or more fun than a motivated Conor McGregor when his head is in the right place. And you can tell when he is, and you can tell when he isn't. Yeah. And you can tell right now he's in.
And I know previously in his career, you've really had like an inside look at that. Like even if he's training in Vegas, you could be here and actually see him do it. Have you gotten that kind of inside look, or are you basing it on what the rest of us are, that we're looking at his social media and it sure looks good?
I've seen everything you've seen. I've seen the social media, but my conversations with Conor, I know when the real Conor's here and the other Conor's here. And believe me when I tell you, the real Conor is here.
Can you give us an example? Have you guys?
Well, I'll tell you right now. I mean, and this is one of the things that I've always given this kid so much credit for. If something happens to Dustin Poirier, he is the Conor McGregor right now that does not give a who we put in that fight on that night. Yeah. He's that guy right now. There isn't going to be any, what about this guy, that guy? He's going to be like, who's ready, who you got? I'm going to the gym, tell me who's showing up on Saturday. He's that guy right now. Yeah. That Conor McGregor is back. And, you said it. Conor goes like this. Conor is right here, right now.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of, it was a 2015 Conor, where Aldo's rib, he goes back to bed and says, tell me who I'm fighting when I wake up. It's that Conor.
That's the guy we're dealing with right now, on every level. He's hitting me up and asking me questions about the layout of the arena, the walk-in, all these type of things that he's interested in knowing about right now. He's all in on this thing. If you are a Conor McGregor fan, and you love everything about Conor McGregor fights, don't miss this one.
You're going to see
this is the one.
You're going to see Conor McGregor on that night. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
100%.
It leads into something I was going to ask you about, and sometimes, you might tell me just to mind my own business with this one because it's a private nature, but it kind of spilled out last year, where he posted those private messages, and people are always interested. You have a long history of, you got a good relationship with somebody, you got a bad relationship with somebody, and you always make deals and you always get business done. It sounds like you and Conor is that water under the bridge, and you guys are...
Yeah, we were in a really bad place then. I was really upset. It wasn't because he put out private messages. But we were talking about another fighter. And I like Diego Sanchez a lot, and I have a lot of respect for Diego Sanchez. And I care about Diego Sanchez. So I was very upset about that. And, I talked to Diego face-to-face about it. Being the great human being that he is, all good. And then I was really, really upset with Conor. So Conor and I fixed that, and we talked and we got through it, and we're in a good place now.
Well, if you guys are in a good place from a business standpoint, and he's in that great place that you just described in the gym, what's a perfect year?
We're always in a good place. Me and everybody are always in a good place as far as business goes. Tito Ortiz fought here for years, okay? We hated each other. He fought here for years. Business is always good, but that doesn't mean that we're good.
Sure.
We're in a good business place, and personally, Conor and I are in a good place right now.
Well, that's great. And so, you put all those things together, and if he's in the gym and he's, fired up and he wants to compete and perform like he did in 2014, 2015, what is, in your opinion, if Conor came to you and said, I'm ready to go, you tell me, you helped me build my career. I want the best year of my career right now. In 2021, what would that look like for Conor?
Well, that division is stacked with studs. I'm meeting with Khabib in Abu Dhabi to see, what's next for him. Is he really retired, or is he going to go for 30 and 0? And you have all these other guys lined up. In a perfect world, for Conor to fight, 2 or 3 times this year, and one of them is a title fight, it'd be awesome.
Let me ask you this, and it feels like it might be a question coming from left field, but I have a feeling that it could come up this year. So let's just get ahead of it. And I want to ask you what you feel about if Conor comes to you and says, I have an opportunity to box Manny Pacquiao, if something that he expressed interest last year publicly. What do you say to that? You've done it with him before, with Floyd Mayweather. What do you say if this guy comes and says to you, I want to box Manny Pacquiao?
The way that this kid is right now, mentally, physically, emotionally, this kid is on and ready to fight. I would love to see him focus on what he can do here at the UFC. Whether it's take another shot at that title against Khabib, or fight for the title against somebody else if Khabib retires, and defend that title. A boxing match with any of these guys, that kind of stuff's always going to be there. You are the absolute best in the world right now at MMA. You're and the timing is right now. Not getting any younger. I'd love to see him go for it here over the next year. If he wants to fight, one of these boxing guys, do that next year. That fight's always going to be there.
Yeah. Because it is reminiscent of the Floyd fight, right? And that was just like, you all got it. It was a lot of money. It improved his life. But, I know that I'm a fan, you're a fan, and you do wonder, what would he have done had he came out of Madison Square Garden and knocked out Eddie Alvarez? What would he have done that following year, right? So that's kind of a feeling you want to avoid.
So true.
With this, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, that was the perfect storm. It all sort of came together perfectly with Floyd, and it was fun. It was a fun thing to do, but sort of a one and done for me. I told you guys a few weeks ago at the fight, there's a lot of fights out there that can be made. I get it. They can make money. You got people running around talking stuff all the time. It's not really what I do. Poirier versus McGregor, that's what I do.
Real quick before we move on, speaking of Floyd, though, obviously you guys have teased a bunch of different times that you may be doing something. Is that still in the works for 2021, or is that kind of been
the world imploded?
Yeah.
But after we were talking about doing some stuff together, I'm just focused on running my business right now.
Yep. And one of the things, of course, that you're going to have your focus on is Khabib. And I'm sure that you're not going to sit here and tell us exactly how the meeting's going to go or what you want to say to him.
I don't know how the meeting's going to go. I'm obviously meeting with him because I believe that he should fight again. Look at what he did to Justin Gaethje, right? Look at what he's done to every opponent he has faced. There's the I think he's got, like when I wanted Cormier to stay. Still think they're the best in the world. And then there's always the argument, well, it's never a bad thing to go out on top. And when you talk about money, I mean, Khabib has money beyond belief. This guy doesn't ever have to work again. And he still has the ability to do things to make unbelievable money. He's in a very unique position as a fighter. So yeah, I don't even know if I just answered your question. I don't even remember what the question was.
You have no idea how the meeting's going to go.
I have no idea, but I think he should fight again, and I'm going to press him as hard as I can for one more.
What is sort of like the backdrop to this meeting? Like, what have you guys talked about, I guess, between October and now? Like, what have you guys discussed?
So the only time we talked was when I was flying home on the plane from Fight Island after his last fight.
That was it?
Yeah. The night of the fight we talked, but then since then it was all in text. So our first face-to-face real sit-down that isn't on a phone will be in Fight Island. We'll be face-to-face, and I will have an answer for you guys that night.
Do you know what day?
Do I know what?
Do you know what day it's happening?
I don't know what day it is.
Meet over dinner or yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what we'll do yet. I don't know how it'll play out, but we'll keep it simple.
How much talking to Khabib and not like pushing him towards fighting again, but just expressing that you would love to see it. How much of that is you as a promoter, and how much of it is you as a fight fan?
Both. Listen, as a promoter, you always want the best guys in the world, but at the same time, as a promoter, when a guy wants to retire, he probably should. If that's even crossing your mind or thinking, the difference with a guy like Khabib is he's been through so much, and losing his dad was such a major blow to him, something that they did together, yet his dad wanted him to hit 30-0. But as a fight fan, I want Khabib to fight 10 more.
Yeah. You've said, you kind of made it clear that if he does come back for only one more and he goes for that 30-0 that his father wanted him to, I think most people are aware that you think Conor is the right one, right? Is that's fair to say?
The right opponent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why do you think that is?
Listen, no matter what you think of Conor personally, Conor McGregor is not only one of the best in the world, one of the best to ever do it. And right now, he's as focused as he's ever been. I don't know if this is going to be the same Conor after the Poirier fight. Like you said, Conor goes like this. But if this Conor sticks around for the next year, how do you not do Khabib versus Conor again, right? Division stacked with tough guys. You feel that and the reality is if Khabib does retire, then whoever the highest ranked guy is at the time will end up facing Conor if Conor beats Poirier. So, and would fight for the title, I'm sure.
And just to 100% confirm something before we move on, if you go and have a meeting with Khabib and it's just very clear that, nope, I'm done, I appreciate it, but I'm just done. I can't fight anymore. There is no chance of Poirier and McGregor turning into some type of a title fight, is there?
No.
There's not. Okay. We'll see that fight and then figure out what's going on with the title. Okay. I'm excited to ask you this next question because I feel like you and I have had interviews in front of cameras before, and we've talked about how you're having problems with Jon Jones and bad conversations on the phone with Jon Jones. And now recently you said you had the best conversation with him that you've had in maybe forever. Yeah. What made that conversation so good between you and Jon Jones?
Well, maybe because it was on Christmas.
It was Christmas Day, huh?
Yeah, it was on Christmas Day. We were both, in the spirit.
Yeah.
But we had a great conversation. He's another one that, he's either in a good place or a bad place, and he's in a great place right now. He seems like it's almost like these guys need to step away from the pressure and the, listen. When you're involved in this thing, the amount of negativity that you're surrounded by on a daily basis is completely overwhelming to some people. You know what I mean? And I think for some of these guys to step away from it for a while and, focus on whether it's their family or hobbies or other things they got going on in their life makes them appreciate coming back again, after they've taken that break.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say that if Jones is active and, now he's moving up to heavyweight, to me, there's a lot of great storylines in this sport going into next year. But if Jones could reassert himself, because right now, and you could tell it agitated him a little bit when people were saying Khabib was the GOAT, and that George St. Pierre was in that conversation, and that he's like, what are you talking about? I'm the GOAT. He's got an opportunity this year to squash those conversations, I feel like.
You know what, and it's what makes the all-time greats great. Once you start to get questioned, it's almost like the timing of the Jordan documentary when it came out, when everybody was just starting to say, you know what, LeBron is pretty damn good. Jordan comes out with this documentary to remind everybody how good Jordan really was, and it's the beauty of being a fierce competitor. And say what you want about Jon Jones. Jon Jones is a fierce competitor, man, and he's one of the greatest to ever do it. To this day, as long as he's been around. And the other thing is, think of all the things that he was doing during the time that he was fighting, and still nobody beat him. The guy's never been beat. And I've battled hard to try to get that one taken off the back of his record. It's almost impossible to do, which is insane. It's crazy that thing doesn't go away. At the time when the Nevada State Athletic Commission was at its weakest, the guy who was running it was weak. The people who were involved in it were weak. Everybody was weak at that time. You should be able to look back and say, okay, let's make this right.
Can we not? Or is it still a hope that potentially?
So far, no good. I've really, really worked hard to try to get that one taken off his record, but not looking good.
Well, I asked you about a perfect 21 for Conor McGregor. What do you think would be a perfect 2021 for Jon to do what I just laid out? To reassert completely himself as not only the greatest of all time, but one of the sport's biggest stars. You got Stipe and Francis fighting, and then he's going to fight the winner. And then what do you think he could do after that to make the perfect year?
I don't know. I'm not even thinking past these fights, because normally you'd be like, well, then he would fight him, and this guy would do this. But with Jon Jones moving up to heavyweight, I don't know. And then there's, all the talk between him and Adesanya, and I don't know. We've got to see how I don't want to get too excited. I don't even want to talk about it. Adesanya still has to fight Jan, which is a tough fight, and Jones at heavyweight, and it's just there's so many massive hurdles that these guys have to get over. And so don't even get yourself excited thinking about Jon Jones versus Adesanya.
Well, I can't help it, so I'll ask you one more question about it. If the fight were to ever happen, what do you think would be the appropriate weight? Not even from like a storyline sense or a belt sense, but just you look at those two guys, what would be the appropriate weight to have a good fight?
Light heavyweight.
Light heavyweight, yeah.
Jon Jones fought light heavyweight his whole career. Adesanya's willing to move up to fight Jan for the title.
Yep.
But does Jon Jones even want to go back to light heavyweight ever again?
He kind of says no.
I know. So that just blows the whole thing right out of the water.
And that's why we shouldn't be talking about it in the early 2021. All right, I got a few more names I want to rapid fire at you, and then you can just kind of give your thoughts on them and sort of where things are at. Jorge Masvidal. The guy, fought on the first installment of Fight Island. Seemed like you guys wanted him to fight Colby Covington, and then it's just kind of like stalled. We haven't heard much about it. What's going on with Jorge?
It's not that it's stalled. When we start talking about making fights, making big fights are a lot harder than I think the media and the public realize. And, I believe that fight will happen. I just don't know when yet.
Okay. TJ Dillashaw is coming back. His suspension is up actually at the end of the month. What do you think is appropriate for him coming back after 2 years?
I don't know. Obviously, the kid's been off for a while, but he's still one of the best in the world. We'll find him the right fight, the right place, and the right time.
Mm-hmm. Would you consider throwing him right into a title shot, or do you think he needs one to prove?
No, we got to talk to him about that. Yeah. He would know the answer to that question better than we would.
Okay. Khabib Nurmagomedov, it was kind of a lost year for him in 2020. He was coming off of a win over Calvin Kattar in Moscow at the end of 2019, and then he didn't fight in 2020. When can we expect to see him, and what do you kind of forecast him this year?
Yeah, we're looking at him in the next 3 months. Mm-hmm. Get him something.
Mm-hmm. Are you still looking at Yair, or are you just ready to ready to move on from that one?
Yeah, I don't know. We might move on from that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your guy, Khamzat Chimaev, I mean, obviously it's come out now. He's confirmed that he had COVID and that he was affected by a little bit. You're going to keep that fight together with Leon? Do you have any kind of time frame, or you just kind of wait to hear?
That's the fight to make. I love that fight, and they both already agreed to it, so we'll get it figured out.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll turn that around as quick as we can. Just want to make sure both guys are healthy. Both guys had COVID, so.
Sure. Yeah, it's such a great fight. You want to see it at 100%, right?
Exactly.
And then Zhang Weili. Who's she going to fight? When's it going to be? Where is it going to be? Do you got any information on her?
Yeah, we're working on her too. Obviously, the fight that everybody wants to see is her and Rose. Hopefully, we can get that done. If not, the next one in line would probably be Carla Esparza. So, we're looking at doing that fight this year and in Asia.
And in Asia, okay.
Yeah.
So you answered kind of one of my earlier questions, is that you are looking around potentially.
Yeah.
And that one obviously is because it's Weili. If it wasn't Weili, you wouldn't be pursuing that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
I got two last questions for you. And they're just as a fan. I said that again, great storylines going into this year. But if I could only follow one, I'm keying in on Jon Jones. I just think that I think he's the most kind of interesting guy coming into this year. If you could only follow one storyline in MMA in 2021, what is the one that interests or intrigues you the most?
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many. Not only with the big stars like Weili and Rose and Adesanya and what he's doing, and Jon Jones, but these up and comers too. Like we were talking about Khamzat. I mean, imagine the craziness that's going to go on with this guy this year, especially with who he's fighting too. And then Kevin Holland, who's a kid that I've become to like very much on a personal level, not just professional level. I just think there's a lot of interesting characters this year, and I think part of that is the reason that makes 21 so fun. I mean, we really have set ourselves up through 20 for an incredible year in 21.
Yep. And you kind of answered my last question. It was 3 names to keep an eye on, and for me it was Khamzat. He's an obvious one. Jon, I don't know if that's kind of cheating because he's already so established. And then I said Amanda Ribas because I think she could have a huge year.
It's another great one, Ribas. And all these kids that have come off the Contender Series. The Contender Series is legit. We literally take the best unsigned kids fighting each other in this pressure cooker atmosphere, and you get to see how they deal with it and how they perform. And the show's been unbelievable. And now Kevin Holland, coming off this knockout, and not just the way that he did it, but who he did it to. Is so impressive and mind-blowing. So I'm excited to see what's next for these kids in 21. And the thing is with a guy like Khamzat and Holland is they'll both fight every weekend.
They're trying to compete with who can fight more,
Yeah,
it feels like.
They don't care. They'll turn around and fight every weekend, which makes it that much more exciting and fun, and fans love that stuff.
Yep. I was done, but I was going to ask you one more thing because you brought up Contender Series. What is the plan for Contender Series? And also, I know because you talked about last year that the pipeline to that was sort of kind of severed because of everything that was going on with COVID.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do is UFC Fight Pass is on fire. UFC Fight Pass killed it in 2020. And we have more subscribers than we've ever had. And I'm trying to sign as many of these other shows as I can so that these smaller shows can start putting on events and building talent. So working on that. And then this summer, we'll have the Contender Series and the Ultimate Fighter, which I'm going to have to pull tons of talent from. Yep. And that'll be big for us going into 22.
Okay, and so what you mean by with those regional shows is that you're just going to sign them broadcast deals and give them some stability, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Give them the financial wherewithal to keep putting on shows.
Great, cool. Well, hey man, we really appreciate the time. This was a great look ahead at the new year, and I hope we get to sit down and do quite a few of these this year.
Thanks, brother. Good to see you.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.